So I just printed out from your website all the different things that you offer. Oh my gosh, what a gift to the world. There was something in here though that I thought would be, and I hope I have it here, would be a nice way, yes, right here. It's something you have on your website by Sandra Ingerman. And after I read this, maybe you could talk about who Sandra is and,
Okay.
and how you're connected with her.
Yes.
I love this. Some people who engage in spiritual practices believe they will be protected from the challenges of life. That life brings us situations to help us grow and evolve. Spiritual practices give us the tools to deal with what life brings us.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. So, first of all, Sandra is one of my many teachers. I've been blessed with so many teachers in my life. It's amazing to me. Every time somebody comes forth, it's the old, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I have taken, read all of her books on shamanism and shamanic journeying and soul retrieval, and have taken 3 years of online virtual classes with her through the Shift Network, and learned so much, even virtually. And then also went on in person to California to take a soul retrieval training with her, which she will not do virtually. You can't do that virtually. So that I could do soul retrievals for my clients as well as shamanic journeying and other shamanic practices. So she's a teacher that has been around for, well, right out of college. I think she's my age, and right out of college she started learning and practicing and teaching shamanism, so way longer than me, and has so much life experience in addition to being so wise. And I love that quote because it is so true that people come forth and read the books and do some practices, are fine, meditation and whatever you do every morning, but then think that their life is going to be perfect. And it's that whole thing of creating, your reality from your thoughts, and that's true. The whole secret thing is true, and the indigenous people have been believing that and practicing that for literally thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. But it's more than that. It's deeper than that. We still need to do our inner work. We just can't say we want to manifest this, have it come our way, and have everything be perfect. We still need to work on our human struggles and challenges that we have, right? And in order to be, as I like to say, not to change yourself, not to be somebody different, but be the best version of who you already are. Be the best version of who you are. Yeah.
Because we're human and divine.
Yes.
And so, you mentioning the soul retrieval, there's so many different ways that people talk about spirituality and wholeness and what that is, but it's always seemed to me that ideally we want to get here fully, all of us, that we want our soul to become embodied, so that we're having this life experience from the level of soul,
Yes.
rather than ego kind of leading the way. So maybe you could talk a little bit about soul retrieval and what that is. And
Yeah. Well, I do believe that, as you said, we do come into our lives fully present in our soul, in our whole soul, in our wholeness of our soul, who we
to
are.
begin with,
Look at an innocent little baby, right? And then we take on, of course, the dynamics of your family that you're born into, the cultural beliefs, the traditions of, whatever that looks like in your part of the world, and then your society's beliefs, and then school and your teachers, and it's just constant barrage that may be against the grain of what who your soul really is. And then in addition to that, we can add in, or you may add in, trauma that you've experienced, and that's where the soul retrieval comes in. Anybody that has experienced trauma as a child, and that takes many forms, because again, we don't judge whose trauma is worse than whose. It could be a car accident, it could be a loss of a parent, which I had with my father passing when I was a child. It could be horrible things like sexual abuse, but it could also be as minute as people saying dismissive things to you as a child. And that, I shouldn't use the word minute, because it's a big thing to your soul to hear that dismissiveness in somebody's voice, parental figure or authority figure. So all of those things are traumatic, are considered traumatic. And it's not just in our minds, but it sets then, the energy sets in our bodies of, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, this person told me that, and it stays with you. So what a soul retrieval does, the process of it, is a beautiful ceremony that calls back that initial part of you that you lost at the point of the trauma. So it's not calling back the traumatic piece, as Sandra so plainly explains. You don't want to call back the moment of impact, for example, of the car accident.
Because it would be re-traumatizing.
That's right. You don't want that back in there. But what was that disconnect that happened, that separation that happened of your psyche leaving to protect yourself? Because that's what it does. It leaves your body to protect itself in the case of that example, like a car accident. And we want to bring that back, that piece of wisdom that left. And there's so many examples of that. But basically what the practitioner is doing is bringing that back into your heart, into your body, that beauty, that little wisdom, that little girl who left to protect you, and needs to be put back there and kept in a safe place. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And like you said, it can be anything, probably multiple things throughout our life, that can be something that's an extreme trauma, or trauma is trauma, so there is no less or more.
But something simple, yes, a simple example, yeah.
But it would seem to me, since we are born whole and beautiful and pure, that it would seem to me that anything less than unconditional love would be traumatizing to the soul.
Well, yes, yeah. And the examples I gave all from childhood, it doesn't necessarily have to be just in childhood. It can be any time during your life.
Yeah.
And we can experience them again and again, that loss of ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
But if you go through soul retrieval and you're able to heal and bring back those fragmented pieces of the soul, then it would seem to me that would bring a kind of, especially if you are already a mature person, what that could do for you is put you in this place of empowerment, so that when things of unconditional love do cross your path, you're like, yeah, I don't resonate with that. Keep going.
Absolutely.
So you're not a match for that anymore.
Exactly, because you aligned yourself differently now.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Another thing about soul retrieval is it doesn't just end there. Unfortunately, you and I know healing is never done. It's a constant process. But after the soul retrieval, there are exercises and experiences that I encourage people to do for themselves, to do exactly what you're talking about, to align themselves with now those new thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, and to say, no, I'm done with that.
Yeah. Because if that wasn't the case, then all that inner work, all that healing that we do, if we're aware enough to do it, if we couldn't get to a place where, because we've done the inner work and we're kind of at peace and harmony on the inside, we want to find ways to make sure that the external is matching that inner harmony, so that we have external harmony and inner harmony, and we're kind of just in that place of harmony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which does take staying awake. It does take staying aware, and you help people with ongoing practices that can help stay them grounded and centered.
There's so many experiences that I can teach, and as do other people, on how to stay grounded in that. The practices of, well, first is aware. You said the words aware and awake, staying there, I often give an example when people leave my workshop or retreats that I do. How do you go home from a beautiful weekend retreat, which I just had the good fortune to experience in Sedona? How do you go home from this beautiful weekend retreat back to reality, right? And go into your house and maybe you face, 4 kids screaming and yelling at you and the daily challenges of life, and stay in that place. And my belief is that you need support. You can't do it by yourself. You need support around you.
Yeah.
From friends that are on similar paths, or people that you trust, that you feel safe with to talk with, and then the experiences and practices that you can bring into your life every day to remind yourself, because that's all it is we know that we have to do that, but we have to be reminded all the time.
Yeah. Which kind of brings me to I'd like to open up an opportunity for you to talk about all the beautiful things that you offer, men and women. But you do a lot of work with women.
Yeah, really mostly with women. I do some ceremonies and rituals for the seasonal celebrations of spring, fall, summer, winter, and that everybody is open to that, to come to that, attend that. But my favorite thing is women's circles, and that's where my passion lies. So I have been leading women's circles for 10 years now. And I find that, and I heard you talking about this last night, that women need desperately, in today's world more than ever, to join something that makes them feel safe and not lonely, and in a place where people are going to actually listen to their story and what they have to say. You may not find that anywhere else in your life, unfortunately, and not judge around it.
Yeah.
And so this is, to me, the sacredness of a women's circle, that you can come and tell your story, have women witness it, and really hear what you're saying, take it into their hearts, and yet not judge it. And then everybody gets to do that as well in the circle, and it's just feeling safe and trusting. Many women have a hard time with it when they first come, because it is vulnerable to sit there and share your story. The first one I ever went to, I was just blown wide open. It was just such an experience. And once you do it, you realize how much you needed it. Your heart just opens up, and you just feel so much better to unload that. And then also be able to see the commonalities of, that woman across the room facing me is in the same situation I am. I'm not alone.
Yeah. Well, what a gift that you're offering women through doing these women's circles. And something I think of often, we could go through life saying, "Oh, woe is me. There's no place for me. I don't fit in anywhere, and nobody's warm, and nobody's listening." And you could go through life seeing it that way, or you could find that needle in the haystack because they're there.
Yeah.
And you're one of those needles in the haystack. So if you can go either way. You can go to woe is me, life is life sucks, and then you die.
There are people that believe that.
There are. You can go that route, or you can have, some kind of faith that says, no, I know, I feel it, I sense it, I intuit, and I'm going to follow that sense, that intuition, and it'll lead me to the person and the people I need to be with.
Yeah. And I find that women do what you just said, mostly after the age of 40. Yeah. There are women who are coming earlier to my circles, younger women, which I just love. The latest circle that I started was 2 women under 35, I think, out of the 8. But mostly it's because we're, practically speaking, they're raising children, they're starting their families, they're starting their careers, they're doing all those things that I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. And you don't have time to think about your next step or going deeper, or, unless you've had some trauma in your life and maybe you're in therapy or something, but to do more extraneous, work outside of the box and have the time commitment for that is a big challenge for a lot of people. And so I find that most of the women that come forth are at least 40, if not in their 50s, and that is the time of awakening.
Yeah.
And I love what Christian Northrup calls the wisdom of menopause.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of looking at it as negatively, that is when women come into their full power.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why they show up here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so true. I think my first show that I did on the radio was kind of a question. Are we having a midlife crisis, or going through the transformation into what I call soulhood?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And,
yes, I love that word.
Yeah. And I think because we're living longer, healthier lives,
Mm-hmm.
it's giving us more of an opportunity to spend a percentage of our life living in that place of soulhood.
Yeah.
And, ideally, and maybe this is changing, because we're willing to step out into that light and kind of expose our wisdom and share that with others, even though the attraction may be for people kind of 40 and over. Just that exposure and allowing yourself to be out there, being your authentic self, I think it does trickle down, even though you may not be getting younger women in your circles or whatever. It's still trickling down. It's still being kind of put out into the universe. And I think over time, at least my hope and faith is that we can start to live in that soulhood a whole lot earlier.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
And I tell women that come to my circle that they are making a difference to everyone in their life.
Yeah.
Their children, their husband, their friends. Even if those people aren't doing the work, the fact that they're here and experiencing what they are, it does ripple out and affect everybody else to become the better version of who you are. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it's it can be a difficult balance, I think, especially in our society where we kind of value materialism.
Yeah.
That seems to be the highest value that we hold, and a bit of narcissism to go with that.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it can be difficult, definitely not impossible, to live with a different value system. And that's from the get-go. That's from, when you're younger thinking, okay, well, tradition says I'm supposed to be married by now. Tradition says I'm supposed to have 1 or 2 children by now. I'm supposed to have a house, and I'm supposed to have this and that, and I'm supposed to be following this path that is traditional, according to our society values.
Right.
But something about that needs to change.
Yeah, and for men too, the same, raising your children of the idea of everybody has to go to college to get the degree to do what? I mean, it isn't necessarily the path for everybody, and that's not the way of the world. I mean, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
So
it works for the colleges and to keep the colleges going.
Yeah, right, exactly.
School loans,
the economy.
And
But it isn't for everybody, and everybody has to follow their own path. And it's just really important for people to wake up to that. And I think that, speaking of younger people, the millennials are definitely waking up to that. They're being more independent, more artistic, more active, activism, and less of following the same way of us. I call myself an old hippie.
That's why I call myself an old hippie too. Yeah, that's true, and I see that in my 3 sons. Yeah, my youngest son is 28, and he's not married yet, and he did the whole college thing and got his degree, and he works in a library and loves it. He loves it, and I don't know. I asked him the other day, I'm like, so what is it that you want to do? And he said, right now, this is it.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good now.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that they're following, and not following the absolute path to success as we see it.
Yeah.
It's a whole different thing now. And we've proven it's not working. It is not working. So more power to them to follow their own path. And be awake earlier, be
Mm-hmm.
awake and aware earlier than we were. Yeah.
Yeah, and at our age, we have our grandchildren that
Yeah.
we can influence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you do the women's circles. You also do private counseling, which focuses on experiential work that integrates the body, mind, and spirit.
Mhm.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I do counseling in the sense that when you come and see me for a particular modality, I offer energy work through Reiki, and then also through shamanic techniques and sound healing. So I kind of combined all three into my practice because they all spoke to me. You just have to follow what is meaningful to you, and they've all been meaningful to me, and they've all helped me to transform. So I've combined them all, which is not necessarily the traditional way, and there are people that would not like that I don't follow the rules, but that's okay. It works for me and it works for my clients. And so when they come and see me, we talk a little bit about what's going on in their lives, and that's where the counseling part comes in, before and after the treatment itself of energy work, of whatever that looks like. And so when they come, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on, how they're feeling. Most people are really, truly over the top too busy. That is the main reason that people come to see me. There are underlying reasons, but the reason is always I'm exhausted and I'm overworked and I'm too busy and I've got too many things on my calendar. And we all do it. It's just a crazy world we live in, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We all do it. And so then the session becomes about just calming them down and being able to receive the energy that transforms that clears your body and that balances your chakra system. Because if you're not calm, you can't even receive it. And then afterwards we talk about, and it's usually about a half an hour of the actual energy work or sound healing, and then afterwards we talk about ways that they can incorporate this into their life, or certainly come back and see me, because it does not transform with only one time. I mean, personally, I get energy work pretty regularly too, if not that, a massage, which is not to be dismissed as something, that is spoiling you.
Yeah.
It truly makes a difference in your body. It really does. So I think everybody should get this work on an ongoing basis, like we do our hair or nails or whatever. So I encourage them to come back to me, if not somebody else, to constantly. We always are taking on this energy of what we've been talking about in our society. We're always taking it on. And we're always having challenges in life, whether it be in relationships or jobs or whatever. And it needs to be cleared on a regular basis. It needs to be cleared. So, but I can give them certain experiences and mindfulness things and meditation, types of things that you could practice on a daily basis to take with them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really like that you include all the sound
therapy.
therapy, and what else did you mention?
Well, it's three. It's Reiki. I'm a Reiki master, and then also shamanic techniques, which are different healing techniques than Reiki, but really all come from, they're all moving the energy in the body.
Yeah.
They're all moving the energy and helping you to release whatever blocks you're holding on.
And
as well as the instruments. They are too.
Yeah. And what a gift, because again, in our society it seems like we're so hung up on this traditional cognitive talk therapy. And I'm not dismissing it or judging it in any way, but it I don't want to live my life kind of stuck in my head.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Have all of you
in the process of healing. Yeah, that's very true. And I certainly would not dismiss that either. And I've been through therapy and loved my therapist. And in fact, she's the one who started me in my very first women's circle. And so I have nothing but gratitude for her.
Yeah,
but we need it both. We need the complementary medicine, as I call it, is an adjunct to traditional therapy.
Yeah.
Or if you're on some kind of medication and you need it, that's great. but this is an adjunct to, it's complementary. You know, it has to be a part of it.
And that you mentioned that, you know, people are coming to you and their main thing that gets them there is that they're kind of overwhelmed with the busyness in their lives. And I think about that, and it's like, I don't know, that seems to be connected to the thread that I see leading to that busyness and that overwhelm is this idea that unless we do all the expected things, we aren't worthy.
Absolutely.
And, you know, to have the comfort of a nice home and security and all that, it's wonderful, but do we need as much as we need?
Yeah.
And why are we so driven for more? To me, that stems to, and the thread leads to, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I need to prove my worthiness.
Yeah, I completely agree. And at the same time as that, I think in our American society is the idea of collecting material possessions and staying busy so that we don't even have to think about that. Yeah, we don't even have to think about those, what you're talking about. I don't want to go there to those emotions.
Yeah. Which a lot of people don't.
And then stay here. We stay here.
Yeah. Don't willingly go there. My youngest son said something to me once. We were talking about our society and consumerism and kind of the disconnection and shallowness that seems to be in the forefront. And he so sweetly and innocently said, well, Mom, people aren't going to change.
Oh.
And I'm like, so why do you think that is, Matthew? And he said, they're too comfortable. Why would they?
But I would question that. That they're too comfortable. Because I see it. When you go to the grocery store, you walk down the street and you see people's faces, I don't see that they're too comfortable. Yeah, I think I see beyond that of that lack of, they may have a beautiful house, they may have everything they need on the surface, but there's something lacking in their lives, and you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of a zone, a lack of awareness.
Yeah, I think it's, you've heard the term shell-shocked. I think a lot of people are soul-shocked.
That's great. Soul shocked. It's true.
Because that is that look of like shock. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in this life, but oh my God. It's like, well, what do I do with this? How do I function in this? So it's a lot of people
and
disassociate.
Then when you're in that mode of it, is this all there is? I hear that from a lot of people. Is this all there is? I go, I cook, I work, I do this, I do clean out, whatever it is that your daily chores are, your daily life is, raising your kids, going to work. Is this all there is? And you and I know there's so much more.
There is. Yeah. But I think
that's really sad to me, very sad to me.
Yeah. I think what my son meant by people are too comfortable is there's too much available to people to keep them. He's calling it being comfortable. I would call it to keep people distracted from the truth of themselves.
Oh yeah, well that's a beautiful way to put it. Yes, the distractions. Yes. Yeah, and the truth of yourself is scary to a lot of people. It's scary. Yeah.
Oh gosh, you are such a rich woman, and what you offer people is so rich and deep and beautiful. Something we talked about a little bit before I turned the camera on, I said I wanted to mention it because I think it's so important, and it's so connected to what you do. So how would you express the fact, I don't know if I like that word fact, but how would you express that somewhere in the history of our world, people disconnected from what seems to be the truth to me, that we are nature. We are the same as nature. Where and how did that disconnect happen, and how can we get back to making that connection that we are the same as nature? I mean, nature is, to me, one of the things in life that I can turn to where I know there's unconditional love. You know, there's no judgment there.
Yeah.
There's truth and beauty, and I can connect to my soul when I am in nature. And when I'm in a large city with a lot of activity, it's harder to connect. So I'm kind of getting off track. But my question is, where and how did we disconnect that we are nature? Also, two, we are nature doesn't have to question, am I in the oneness? It just is in the oneness.
It just is, right, yeah.
So where did that happen, and how did that happen?
I think, well, it's a big story. But I think that's a big story, and many books have been written on it. But my opinion is that it's been happening for at least a few thousand years over time, and not to lay blame, but we have shifted, and hopefully we're shifting back. But we have shifted from as some people call it, the divine feminine, the feminine nature of ourselves, which is creation and the earth. Mother Earth is feminine. The grandmother moon, as the indigenous call it, is nature, part of us, part of our cosmology. And over time, I believe that it's the institutionalized religions and the patriarchal energy that's come in over the last few thousand years that have taken over this feminine divine energy that we had present. And you can read history books, it's all over the place, and many books have been written about how to return to the divine feminine by women authors today. And the witches is a perfect example, and there's been things happening in all churches. It's not to blame any one church, but it's the institutionalization of the dogmas and the hierarchical beliefs, the processes that going this way from top down to who's dispensing the services on Sunday, has all been patriarchal and hierarchical, and that is not the nature of nature or Mother Earth, right? It's all about oneness and wholeness. And so we know that this is where we come from. We come from the divine. We come from the source of creativity, all creation. I personally don't believe in a deity, although I grew up Catholic for 12 years of Catholic school, and that's what they told me. But I no longer believe in a deity. I believe in an energy of creation. And I use the word creator or great spirit to represent that. But it's not a one deity person. And so I think that it's just happened over time, and it's just part of the shift. And we can now fight that. And I think we are. And I think that lots and lots of teachers have come forth. Literally thousands of teachers have come forth to teach about that and how to return to this. And I think that is part of the shift that we're going through right now. Right now. And one of the ways that I teach is to be in nature and to connect to nature on an ongoing basis, to walk in the woods, and not necessarily, although sometimes I do it for exercise, but not necessarily for exercise, but to really talk to the tree, to receive the energy from the earth as you're walking, and connect to all the sources that we have out there. Because if you really believe that we're all related, in shamanism, everything has energy, everything is connected through energy, whether it be a rock or a tree or the moon or the earth or a flower or you and me and every other human in the world and every animal in the world. We are all the same, and we all came from the same source. So if you believe that that's true, then you can receive energy and you can talk to any of it.
Well, there's a relationship with everything.
Everything you can develop a relationship with, and this is what I teach in journeying. Why not get an answer from the bear instead of this masculine deity. And then in most religions you can't even talk to the divine deity directly. You need an in-between person. It didn't ever work for me. It never worked for me.
Yeah.
But so I do a lot of teachings around holding ceremony for the seasonal changes is really important to me, because that is where we are. This is what we live in. You know, we're sitting here watching snow come down on March 1st, but in 21 days it'll be spring, and we need to celebrate that fact and understand the symbolism of the growth of Mother Earth waking up as we wake up, and how we can absorb all that teachings. And you were saying, you know, she is beauty, she is reciprocity, she is harmony, she is all those things, and we just need to bring that into our hearts and live as, you know, we are one. And even on a practical level, the environmental thing is finally waking up. A little bit late, but I think I have faith that we'll get there, and take care of the earth. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it. That's beautiful. I was thinking as you were sharing that, and you can't tell from my, you know, blonde hair and blue eyes, but I do have Cherokee in
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, my great grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee, and even though I look this way and I was raised in the white man's world, in my heart and soul and spirit is that Cherokee, and I've always just had that naturally with me, and I think in a big way that's been a saving grace for me, because somehow I intuitively, you know, maybe my ancestors have been kind of guides for me. I just knew to follow kind of the red road in a way.
Yes, it is in your blood.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
But it's interesting you should bring that up, because I taught a workshop on shamanism last Sunday, and several of the women in the class said they felt ties to native blood, even if it wasn't in the direct blood, that it was in their ancestral lineage, and I said, why not? I say, why not? We're on this continent, and they were here first. So of course, you know, as we come over, you know, whatever boat you came off of, from whatever country you came from, we ended up being connected to them. And of course it's in our lineage and in our ancestral beliefs. And it is again, this is about the body and it absorbing the good and the bad. And it's in there. It's in us cellularly. So of course you are connected to it. And I believe I am too, although I don't have a great-grandmother that's a Cherokee directly. But my husband does. So see, it's everywhere.
Cherokee?
Yeah, it's great. I think it's 3 grades. Yeah.
So something, and I don't know the exact name of the book, but aren't you doing something, a book group that's connected to, and I can't remember the name of the book.
The book that I'm writing, or the book that...
No, but we can talk about that as well. Yes. And I would not have remembered that, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
You're doing a group around a book.
Oh, the book that I'm hoping to start a new circle. I do an offering every spring, and of a new women's circle that will last for a year. It's a commitment of 1 year. We meet monthly. And the book that I chose to use as a background is called Imagine a Woman in Love with Herself.
Yes.
I love that title.
I don't know, I still want to try and find a way to get there,
Yeah.
because that book is so intriguing.
Isn't it though? And it's a classic. I think it's from the late 90s, but it is so, the experiences that it offers in it to imagine this are really profound and important. And then, as always in my groups, in my leadership within the facilitation, I may use a book or cards or something to lead it, but it's always also offering experiential exercises that I offer, like the shamanic journeying and guided meditation. We do a lot of journaling, and we do art, because I love doing art for expression. And I love watching women come to the table with crayons or mandalas or whatever I have there, and sitting there going, I can't draw. And of course I said that too when I first started doing them, but it's not about that. It's about your soul's expression. and we're not judging whatever is on the paper. It's just about bringing out what's in your soul.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of art too in the program, yeah. So it's really fun. I love leading circles.
That group sounds lovely. And that book sounds lovely.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I remembered to mention that kind of sparked you to bring up the book that you're writing. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I started writing it as my personal journey of women's circles about 3 years ago, and I wrote it with the intention to inspire other women to be part of circles and to expand circles out there, which is my original inspiration was Jean Shinoda Bolen, who wrote The Millionth Circle, a book called The Millionth Circle. And it's that thing that we were talking about before, that every time you do work, you do your inner work, the ripples, it affects everybody around you, and then those people affect people around them. And that is the nature of doing sacred work, soul work, as you call it. And so in the process, so I wrote that book, and then somewhere along the line in the last 2 years, I decided that I wanted to teach women to lead circles.
Yeah.
So that we would take this out, because it's really important work. It's not only about what I described before of a woman telling her story and witnessing others with no judgment, but it's about literally changing the world. And this is what Jean Bolen has taught in her book, The Millionth Circle. That from beginning of time, the indigenous people sat in circle, in council, they called it, and everyone, they passed the talking stick, and everybody would listen to one person speak at a time, and then when they were all done, they would discuss what was spoken and then come to consensus. Well, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to do now in our political situation?
Oh, please, dear Lord. We might not want to go there on camera.
No, we're not. But wouldn't it be wonderful? Just imagine it, okay?
I can't.
Sitting in a circle with a talking stick and no one interrupting. And this is something that is profound. It's profoundly important in the world, no matter where you sit in the world, whether it be that or school boards or moms groups that have, I was talking to somebody the other day about moms with special needs kids, could do that and perhaps come to, not just for your own group therapy, but also to make decisions based on the input from other moms. So there's just endless opportunities for this. So I decided that I wanted to teach women to lead, and for that reason, it's not about, you don't have to be a coach, you don't have to be a therapist, you can be a mom, you can be a school board member, you can be any walk of life. You just need to feel like, oh, I'm a good listener. I have a potential, and this might be scary to some people, that leadership word, but I have the potential to do that. I could lead this. I could facilitate this.
Yeah, and really, it's a facilitation, because when we sit in a circle like that, it creates equality, and so that person that is facilitating, they're kind of just keeping the energy, flowing within that circle. So they're kind of like an energy worker.
They are.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is that holding that energy of the guidelines, so that there is a sacredness and a trust in the group. So I started doing that. I've trained, I think 20 women. I've done 2 trainings of passing it on, and there are 4 women who are now leading their own circles.
In Illinois?
In Illinois. A couple therapists and a coach is starting hers now. And that's been over the last 2 years. So then I took that manual that I had created for the training and made it a part of my book, and that's been my process for the last year, is to get the 2 combined with a wonderful woman who's helping me edit the contents.
So the facilitator, teaching women how to facilitate circles, is that's a manual that you already have?
That I already have,
Okay.
and in fact I have a training day planned on April 9th, and it's almost full of women coming to learn how to lead a circle. So now I'm finally getting to the end of the book that I'm writing and combining the 2 things.
And so the book that you're writing to combine with your manual is what?
Okay, so I just named it. So I'll say it out loud.
I mean,
it's okay. No, this is exciting. It's just like, okay, what's the second part again? Because it just happened last week. So I'm not used to saying it yet. It's The Wisdom of Circles, Gathering Women for a conscious community.